Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in today to our panel discussion on how digitalization is shaping the future of manufacturing. You're watching a live broadcast on the LiveMint Facebook page. With me are two gentlemen who are thought leaders in the space of modern manufacturing practices. Bhaskar Mandal is the head of for process industries and drives at Siemens India, while Ashish Bhat is the head for digital factory at Siemens India. I, Roudra Bhattacharya from the Hindustan Times brand studio, I am your host and moderator. Over the next half hour, we will discuss how Industry 4.0 or the digitalization-led fourth industrial revolution is transforming global manufacturing and what lessons Indian companies can draw from the same to stay competitive. Thanks for being a part of the Facebook Live today, Ashish and Bhaskar. Before we discuss the future of manufacturing, let us spend a few minutes talking about where manufacturing stands today and where India is versus what is happening globally, and a bit about what is Industry 4.0.
So let me start. Hello everybody, welcome to this show. India has come a long way, Roudra, in terms of manufacturing. I mean, from a few decades ago to where we are today, roughly 15% of our GDP is contributed by the manufacturing sector. A hugely important sector, a hugely important function in the growth of a developing nation like India. And in our lifetimes, we have seen, or I have personally seen, how the quality of manufacturing or products manufactured in India have improved. And from a stage where we were kind of doing a Control-C, Control-V, producing a product in India, we have increased our level of competence and value add by transforming ourselves into the design phase also. So not just manufacturing of the product, but also designing and improving the product. So we are catching up. Let me say we are catching up with the developed nations. Coming back to your question, we still have a long way to go, and that's where we need to be up to date with topics like Industry 4.0. The future of manufacturing, and how we can kind of use technology as a stepper in our journey of manufacturing.
Right. What is Industry 4.0, Ashish?
So I think just to demystify Industry 4.0, if you see from every manufacturer's perspective, you have four dials he needs to turn. The first dial is the time to market, how fast. Yeah. If you apply it to automotive variants, if you look at the companies in India, automotive companies. If you were brought up in my age, there was one variant coming every 7 years,
Right.
but now you see one variant every 9 months or 18 months is upgrade. So time to market is important, but you have to understand that time to market starts with the ideation of the product.
Right.
It starts in the virtual, not in the real, yeah, when you design. The second part, which is very important, the second dial you need to rotate, is flexibility. And this becomes even more key for small to medium enterprises, because you need the ability to do multiple variants on the same line.
Right.
So that means the ability to participate in multiple supply chains.
Product life cycles have become sort of shorter.
Absolutely, have become shorter. Innovation needs to come faster. So time to market, flexibility. Then efficiency is, of course, based on the way your industry is growing. You either have to do more with same, or more with less, or same with less. So
Companies are continuously getting squeezed for
Absolutely.
their margins.
Yeah.
So that and then quality aspect. So when you have to turn all the four dials together, and then have the ability to participate in multiple supply chains, that means doing a single lot at the same price as mass production, that is Industry 4.0.
What role do you think the government policy regulations play in sort of encouraging companies to adopt modern manufacturing practices, and how has sort of our policy shaped up so far?
Well, I think we are on a good way. I think what has been started, the Make in India campaign is extremely popular one. I mean, when sometimes I take a taxi ride in a foreign country, the taxi driver asks me, how's the Make in India campaign going on? So we have been extremely successful in building the brand of Make in India, and rightly so, because as we were discussing, a huge percentage of let's say the workforce is dependent for job opportunities in the manufacturing sector. So not only does it give an insularity against global, let me say, downturn and so on, it makes our economy solid. but it also is a huge employment generator. So from that point of view, I think there are a lot of initiatives in various states. The states have picked it up, and there are various good, campaigns going on, programs going on to increase the manufacturing from a current status of 15-16% to about 25% in a few years' time. And I think that's the right way. That's the right way. I mean, manufacturing as an industry is always extremely critical, and agriculture, of course. But today we're talking about manufacturing. Is extremely critical in the development of a country like India.
Of course. So Siemens has a lot of global experience in manufacturing and Industry 4.0 now. Could you sort of talk about how what are your global experience and how sort of are they relevant to India? How are you bringing those lessons learned, things that companies that you work with, those learnings back into India?
So,
Ashish?
So I can, just to add to what Bhaskar said, the SMEs. So if I focus purely on SMEs, which is really the backbone of manufacturing, this is the second largest employment sector in India after agriculture. I think only low by a few percentage points. And in terms of output, it is around 40% of the output of the country. So for any country to be very strong, the SMEs have to imbibe technology.
Right.
Yeah? So part of that is, of course, and Make in India also has a lot of focus on the ecosystem to support SMEs and what you need. But we actually did a transformation very recently. We have a production line in Kalwa, which sort of represents a medium enterprise output. And this was a product which we were importing and subsidizing, didn't meet the Indian price conditions, which are very challenging. And we employed all the facets of Industry 4.0, right from virtualizing the product, virtualizing the production, optimizing the virtual, releasing for the build, and then producing the product. And there's a lot of information on that which is in public domain, but in the terms of flexibility, output, quality, we achieved. And in the end, we were able to substitute a very high-end value-add product, which was a global market, imported, to manufacture in India and meet the Indian price conditions. These are products you can buy off the shelf in any city now.
And you spoke about SMEs. One of the biggest challenges with SMEs is the awareness. They need to know about what is available out there. They need to be convinced because they have thinner margins. They have lesser investment appetite, so to say. So how are you able to how are you spreading the awareness among SMEs at this point?
Okay, I mean, we have recently launched for the second time something called an Ingenuity Tour, and that's a very interesting concept. It's nothing but a truck which kind of shows all our capabilities, and it goes through for a couple of years into the interiors, a few hundred towns and cities and villages across all parts of India, and that's just to showcase. So, I mean, gone are those days when you expect the customer to, take from you, and you have to go in, and you have to go in. And let me tie this also with the previous question that you asked. So, to complete the Ingenuity Tour. So, this is a truck which will have all the showcase technologies that you can touch and feel, and you can walk inside the truck, and it'll go to all parts of India, and one can get a feel of what the current technologies that are available to each and every SME. Coming back to your previous question about where does India stand in terms of technology, I mean, I think it is a two-way street now. I mean, gone are those days where we are dependent on only what's available in terms of technology from outside into India. We are now going the export way. So what can we so what is the value add of Siemens, for example, in the world of Siemens? So how can manufacturing plants in India contribute to the value addition of Siemens globally? And here it's substantial. Now, if you extend this to the SMEs and also to our customers, essentially what you're saying is, we are not producing just for the Indian market. How do we produce as per global international standards so that all manufacturers in India are producing to a standard which is export ready, and so you create a demand for that automatically. So it's not just being dependent on the West for technology. We also have a tremendous investment in R&D and engineering and developing from scratch. Ashish talked about the virtual world. So the marriage of the real world and the virtual world. So how do you conceptualize and design a product on screen before putting it into a factory? So these are a lot of interesting high-tech work is happening in India.
Yeah, I think just to add two more things on SME, with all that Bhaskar said and more, is that SMEs, of course, have to constantly move up the value chain. Yeah?
Of course.
Otherwise, they will be gazumped by importers who offer higher value. Much to what we're doing with our products. Yeah? We're importing them, now we manufacture them locally. So they need digitalization. But I think the second place where Industry 4.0, I would say, for SMEs is even more important is their ability to fight scale. Yeah, otherwise scale will bring down an SME, because somebody is producing the same 80,000 items and you need one line to produce 10,000 of 8 types. So you can only do that with digitalization.
So nimble, flexibility,
Absolutely.
those are sort of
Absolutely.
the key values. What are some of the key manufacturing sectors that have been transformed by digitalization, and which sectors do you think are yet to sort of reap the benefits, the complete benefits of Industry 4.0?
I think discrete, we have discrete and process, and maybe Ashish, you want to talk about
So
the
let's
discrete
talk
more
about discrete. I mean, the trend setter, honestly, for digitalization or high-end electrification and high-end automation and digitalization is normally automotive. Yeah, if you see the cars 20 years back, after 2 days the door would not close. Right? And now you see the quality of the cars that come out now. Yeah, and the automotive and coming to the SME again, the automotive end customer. Therefore, make sure that the SME ecosystem, because SMEs supply to the automotive end customer.
Vendors.
Somebody supplies the paint shop, somebody supplies the car upholstery, somebody supplies the car windscreen. If you look at a car manufacturer now, 70% is integration, only 30%.
Assembly,
30% he makes himself. So all of that supply, 70% is coming from SMEs. So the end standards of the car manufacturer, like a Tata, Mahindra, and Volkswagen, and all of these, they determine the quality of the SME. So the SME has to adopt their manufacturing principles. So in automotive, it has happened very well. I think the second high end of automotive is aerospace. So I would see a lot of automotive high-end SMEs also participating in the aerospace sector, because you need much lower tolerances and very high quality. Yeah? Other one is machine tool industry. So I think in general manufacturing, Bhaskar, I would say that the adoption of digitalization is much, much higher.
Yeah. And maybe we take a couple of examples from the process part of it.
Yeah.
And here, let's talk about, maybe we can talk about cement. And cement, as we know, is closely related to the infrastructure building of India. And in cement, for example, it's a guzzler of energy. It needs productivity. So we are in touch with, or we work together with various cement manufacturers, the top of the line cement manufacturers in India. And we are contributing or working together using digitalization, various aspects of production, various aspects of improving energy, let's say consumption, down to also how do you take out cost from a bag of cement. Yeah? Another example is pharmaceutical. I mean, I don't know about all of you, but I pop a pill every morning for my blood pressure. And there is something in a pill which is called an API. It's an active pharmaceutical ingredient, and this is probably 2 to 3% of the pill, and the rest is all sugar and coloring and starch, just to give it a good, interesting shape to have it. But this API is extremely important, as you know. If it's only 2 to 3% of a pill, the quality has to be perfect. So the process quality of manufacturing of this active pharmaceutical ingredient is extremely important, and that's where we collaborate with top of the line pharmaceutical companies in India. Cipla is one of them, where we together are using digitalization to see how best to optimize yields, how best to do QBD, quality by design, in the manufacturing process. So in one way or the other, whether it's an automotive or cement or pharmaceutical or i.e. a pill or a train, we are touching from the moment you wake up to the time you go to sleep. As Siemens, pretty much multifaceted of various aspects of your day-to-day life, and that's what is important. It's the, let's say, the ecosystem between manufacturers and technology providers like ours, we need to build this ecosystem together and ensure Industry 4.0 digitalization is improving the day-to-day lives of common people like you and me. Yeah.
Right. The last question from my end. So artificial intelligence is really sort of, so to say, affecting many sectors, right? How is AI playing a role in industrial automation, and how do you think, how is it going to affect the pricing models, etc., the business model out there right now?
I mean, let me take the first part of the question and then the second to Bhaskar. But see, AI from our point of view, so if you look at Industry 4.0, the Siemens approach is across the manufacturing value chain. That means first we define how the product looks like in the virtual, then we define how the production looks like in virtual, then we release for the build, and then we operate the plant, right? So when you come in, so you have three. You have a digital twin of the product, digital twin of the production, and digital twin of the performance. So when you come on the performance side, so what we do on the performance side is we want to make sure that the plant is operating very close to its design capacity, as close as possible, in a very iterative way. So therefore, there we take a lot of information, we put it on a cloud, MindSphere, and on top of that we run analytics, which give us meaningful insights.
Right. And
right, to get that final 1 to 2% creep, it's a continuous improvement cycle. Okay. So AI definitely in the future helps us get more out of our assets.
Right.
Yeah. So with AI now you can sweat the assets a bit more than what you could do before. And if you can sweat the assets 2 to 5% more, that's a lot of capex which is deferred, and that's a lot of output from the plant. So I would see that the performance and the output of every plant, even based on any level of automation it is, would improve with the use of AI.
Yeah.
Also to sort of reduce wastage,
and all of that, so all exactly.
Sustainability. I mean, these are all important sort of
Absolutely.
factors.
So all the input costs, or water, steam, material, resources, and of course making sure that you cater to the environmental footprint.
Right.
So when you reduce water, you reduce steam, you automatically have environmental impact.
Correct.
Bhaskar, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, AI for me is, I would say, it's just the beginning of AI. I mean, AI could also have the scary aspects of robots ruling your lives and so on.
Right.
Without going into that, but slowly but surely, it's creeping into all our lives. I mean, today, your car is kind of telling you how many miles or how many kilometers you can go before you need to refill. Your phone is telling you that it's time to go home, or to catch your next flight, you need to book your taxi.
Right.
So in some way or the other, AI is nothing but intelligent algorithms trying to simplify your life a little bit. And we are in the beginning phases. It is playing a big part in Industry 4.0, or it will play a big part. It is playing a big part in currently have highly automated factories and so on. So it will go on, but I think we have just kind of scratched the surface of AI as of now.
A long way to go.
I'm saying it eventually will go down to device level too.
Absolutely.
But we already are seeing productivity improvements by the use of AI.
Absolutely. Yeah. Data analytics, what you talked about. I mean, to convert big data into smart data. I mean, that's you need AI. You need artificial, let's say, intelligent algorithms.
So intelligent data that you can sort of immediately use and
actionable insight.
Actionable insight, right.
That's a good one. Word, actionable insights. Yeah.
So we are almost done with the Facebook Live, but there's some questions on the from our viewers. There's one question I think that I'd like Bhaskar or Ashish both to sort of handle. Which sector is yet to see the potential of Industry 4.0 and which have been leading the way for Indian manufacturers? I think the second part of the question you did touch upon.
Automotive, definitely.
Yeah. But which are the sectors that you think?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind from my point of view, and Ashish can give his opinion, is probably food. Is probably because India is one of the top two producers. Is the top producer of milk in the world, for example. Second producer, if I remember correctly, fruits and vegetables in the world. So yet a huge amount of food goes waste.
Yeah. Very high
due to logistics, due to
cold chain, etc.
Exactly. So that's an area. So look at it, the way I see it. Digitalization can help areas where the waste is high. And the first one that comes to my mind is food, fruits, milk,
Food
etc.
processing,
So kind of helping that, and it just makes our country a little stronger. Yeah.
And irrigation and water.
Irrigation,
you can now think
water,
about
and
scarce resources.
For a country which is primarily agrarian,
predicting the weather,
Yeah.
predicting the weather properly.
Yeah.
That's another huge.
So I would say exactly food, quite a few sectors of food, irrigation, water,
right?
water utilization, some on utilities too. In general manufacturing, when we say machine tool and we talk about automotive and even early aerospace, the adoption rate is high because you can't do without it.
Right.
Without having a virtual design of the product, you cannot make a car. That's a beginning step. So certain industries are designed as they are.
Also, the pressure, I believe, on margins, etc., are so high. So adoption of newer technologies that can sort of
That's true.
boost
Yeah,
processes
and
efficiency.
you have to understand that when you work on the margins or when you use digitalization to reduce or cut out cost, let's say, the benefit always goes to the end customer, people
Right.
like you and me, because we kind of really benefit from a lower cost of production.
Better prices.
Yeah.
And I would say that if you look at the consumption indices in India, they're very low.
Right.
Yeah, if you see the number of automotives per head, number of amount of nutraceutical consumption per head,
Steel per
amount
head.
of, it's very, very low. So I think one of the things is how do you increase these consumption indices is to make sure that you can produce more competitively and more efficiently.
Right. Lower prices.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. So the more, sometimes the supply also creates demand, yeah.
Of course.
So if you have more supply at the right price, also people will adopt it much quicker.
Thank you, Bhaskar. Thank you, Ashish. And there was a great chat on digitalization. Thank you, viewers, for watching us. And if there are any questions, you can, of course, post it on the Mint video, and we will take it up later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.